I am currently in the historic and beautiful downtown Savannah, just behind Madison Square. I am going to be running here this week and giving a review on how this city performs as a running city. My criteria will be based off of how the trails perform themselves, how the safety of the trails and area is, and then also just the atmosphere or like feel or vibe of the city. So I'm going to be running mainly just around downtown at some popular spots and throughout the city for about a week here every day so that I can get a feel for the city and feel for how it performs as a running city.
Oh, I've been traveling down the road with no place to go, no place to go.
I just finished a 2-mile run here on the Riverwalk in Savannah. One of the first things I noticed here is that it was very a peaceful run. The trail is mainly brick, and then there's a little stone part road that connects the two boardwalks. The brick isn't the best thing to run on. It's also not super long. I got in 2 miles, but I needed to go down and back and then down a little bit more to get in a full 2 miles. So I'd say the full trail is about a mile long. Safety, I would give a pretty good score, at least like a 8 or 9 out of 10. There's not like restrooms for the trail that I could see, but there's plenty of places to stop, coffee shops, restaurants, and some hotels around. There's also quite a bit of people out here, so it's a pretty public area. Not overly crowded, which is nice, but it didn't seem like it would be a super dangerous spot to run in. I am running on a Thursday morning-ish around like 9 a.m. The trail itself, like I said, the distance isn't great, but it is a nice breakup of what you might be used to running on. Running on brick isn't, I wouldn't say I would want to run on it every day, but it is cool to run on every once in a while. Overall, I'd give the trail like a 5 or 6. The atmosphere was okay, very laid back. There wasn't a lot of other runners or bikers or anything. There's a couple people just riding bike for fun. There were 2 other runners that I saw on my run, and then one more when I was starting to record this. I saw another runner. It's nice when you can find a spot where there's a lot of other runners, but this wasn't one of those spots. So for atmosphere, I'd give it about a 5 or 6. So again, not ideal. Overall, I'd probably give this location a 5.5 or 6. I'm not sure how to, I don't want to be too hard, but I also don't want to be too soft since it's the first spot I've run at here. And I'm looking forward to trying to find some other locations and better places to get a run in.
Pockets filled with holes, money's running low, truck is moving slow, and I keep going old 'cause I've been traveling down the road.
Currently, I am in Forsyth Park here in downtown Savannah, and this is where I've been running the past couple of days. So I wanted to go over a quick trail score, a score of what I thought of Forsyth Park. So the safety of the trails I thought was really good. It's in a public area, really close to downtown, a lot of little shops and things around here. There's a bathroom at Collins Quarter over on one side of the park. There's a lot of people down here pretty much always. I ran here Saturday morning during the farmers market, and then also the next morning as well. Much busier on the Saturday versus the Sunday morning run, but that's expected with the farmers market going on. So overall, for the safety, I would give it a 9 or a 10 out of 10. It's pretty much as safe as you can get with how public of an area it is and with the amenities available. The trail itself is a lot of just sidewalk, stone, I guess, so not anything crazy, not something you would love to run on. So I wouldn't prefer to run on sidewalk every single day for the majority or 100% of my run. Perimeter of the park, I think, is like 1.2 miles. So if you take a couple loops around, you can get some distance in. And then if you throw in running through the park, you can add a little bit The trails or sidewalks in the park aren't super long. Mainly people run around the outside of it. So as far as the trail itself, I would give about a 6.5 or 7 out of 10. The atmosphere of Forsyth Park and this area around Forsyth, I would give that a pretty high score. There's a lot of people, there's a lot of runners, some bikers, and there are tennis courts and basketball courts. And then, like I said, there's a farmer's market on Saturday. The Saturday I ran, there was a ton of runners. So I noticed personally my pace was heightened, and that was kind of nice. The next morning there were still runners, not as many as Saturday morning, but I always enjoy running in a location where there are other runners, or at least people doing other activities like running, biking, soccer, basketball, and basically all of that was happening. Overall, the atmosphere, the trees here are always gorgeous. The weather's nice. The vibe of the park is good and much different than that of River Street. River Street wasn't as, I don't know, and lively and not as like youthful. This the Forsyth Park is a more like youthful feeling to it. So I would give the atmosphere like a 9 or 8.5 to 9 out of 10. Overall, I would say this is probably the best spot. I'm assuming this is the best location in like downtown Savannah to run at if you're going to choose a spot to run. I would definitely include it in a lot of my runs. If I lived here, it would probably be something I at least run through on 60-70% of my runs, but I wouldn't want it to just be all of my run, just due to kind of the trail and then how crowded it can get at times.
Down this long, long road with no place to go. Don't see no end in sight.
I am currently in Daffin Park, just a couple miles outside of downtown Savannah. The first thing I noticed here, they have a few amenities around the park or in the park. They have some basketball courts, a public pool, and then the Savannah Bananas baseball stadium is in this park. The main running trail is a 1.5-mile loop around the park, which is a rubber trail, which was really nice. I did find a map in the park that showed a greenway, and I was trying to see where that greenway would be. So maybe you can use the park here to connect to that greenway in some way. The rubber trail makes it nice. If you're okay with the monotony of running in circles, then this trail would be perfect for that. Just 2 times around is going to get you to 3 miles, and then if you want to go from there, you can start racking up the miles quickly. So the safety of the park, I think it's in a pretty safe area. There's a good amount of people here. I'm sure on the day of like a baseball game for the Savannah Bananas, especially in the spring or summer, it's probably a little more crowded. I couldn't locate any restrooms. I did find a bathroom, but it was locked. I maybe just overlooked it. Overall, for safety, I think we're gonna give it a 6 out of 10 just because I couldn't locate a restroom easily. The trail itself there's no like huge cracks or whatever. There's the trail that is a little bit skinny. It would be nice if it was a wider trail, so if you're coming up against another runner or biker, you kind of got to get onto the sidewalk, one of you onto the sidewalk or off the trail completely. But other than that, there's not like any huge cracks or bumps or anything. The loop around the pond here, there's parts that get kind of flooded and you have to go around and into some mud and things like that. And then the trail itself, I really enjoyed. I like the rubber part of the trail, and then there's some sidewalks and driveway as well within the park. On that, I would give it a 8 out of 10. I'm holding off on something like a 9 or a 10 just because it's only 1.5 miles. That I don't love, but it gets the job done for sure. And the fact that it is rubber makes it a nice change up from what I'm used to running on. And the atmosphere of the park, it's really a nice park, a beautiful park. There's, like I said, a lot of things: pond, basketball court, sand volleyball, public pool. There were other runners, there were walkers, there was family running, there was people doing some sort of CrossFit workout, people playing volleyball. So it would be nice for there to be more runners, I think, but there's still, like, if you come here, you're going to see other runners. As far as atmosphere, I'm gonna give 7.5 out of 10. The park is a little bit run down. You can tell it's kind of an older park. If I lived here, it would certainly be a place I would utilize and use. Maybe not every day for a run, but I would certainly make this a location or a stop for my runs, at least maybe once a week or once a month. Today was the last day of running here in Savannah, and I wanted to give my overall thoughts of how it performed as a running city. First, I'd like to go over some of the pros of running here in Savannah. The first thing that comes to mind is just how beautiful it is and how rich in history it is. It's kind of anything you do in a city like that is going to be a little bit more meaningful or just more enjoyable. It felt very safe running through downtown Savannah. Traffic was very courteous of walkers and runners alike. There does seem to be somewhat of a homeless population here, but nobody seemed aggressive or rude or mean at all. I never felt threatened in any way, and especially if you're running during the day, there's so many people out that there would be no sort of fear in that way. There's also a lot of little shops around, so there's usually a restroom you could jump into or something if you needed. The trails themselves, not many pros to go off of. It's a lot of just sidewalks and brick, which is cool to have a change up of something like that if you're not used to running on brick, or if you're used to running on just like running trails themselves. I want to get into some of the cons as well. The trails, that's probably the largest con, is the trails. A lot of it's sidewalk running, or you could hop on the road, but there is quite a bit of traffic. A lot of the sidewalks are older, which is really cool. A lot of them are brick, which again, I love and think is awesome. But for running purposes, a lot of it is raised up and lowered down, so it's annoying to run on that. I would hate to do that every single day. There's not a great running trail that's nearby. There is a greenway. There is a greenway here that I didn't get a chance to run on or experience at all, but I talked to some locals about it, and they didn't seem to talk it up at all. They were bikers though. I don't know if that makes a difference, but they didn't seem like it was recommended to run on or anything. So maybe that's a better spot if you want to get onto a running trail. The other issue that this area kind of creates is it's not great for long distance runs, in my opinion. It's just kind of annoying to constantly be aware of cars and traffic, even though they are very courteous. The best location to run is definitely over at Forsyth Park. They've got like a 1.2 mile perimeter to run around there, and then some trails through the park. The atmosphere of the city is really nice. The cons that I would have with it though are, I wish there were more runners. There definitely were runners, like there weren't zero. I kind of would have expected to see a little bit more. Saturday morning there are a lot of runners at Forsyth Park. The other days there would be much less there, but still some. I would have loved to have more. It just didn't feel like a running city. It feels like it has potential to be, but the lack of trails, and then also kind of a lack of a perceived running community, which there could be a vibrant running community that I just am not privy to. The safety of the city for running, I'm gonna give like an 8.5 out of 10. I don't have any stats or anything to back this up, but just on how I felt running through the city and how traffic was courteous, it seemed like a very safe place to run, especially during the day with so many people out. The trails, I'm going to give like a 5 out of 10. The only trail I was able to run on was a rubber trail in Daffin Park that was actually like a running trail and not just sidewalk. The atmosphere of the city I really enjoyed. It's peaceful, it's nice. There's parts of it that are vibrant, there's parts of it that are laid back. The city overall, as a running city, I'm going to give a 6 out of 10. I think it really has potential to be a little bit more if there was some sort of longer trail that was easy and accessible to the downtown area that you could hop onto and just go for 5 or 6 miles or something. I really think it has a lot of potential. It's a beautiful area, but I would say first and foremost, this is a walking city. Everything's within close distance. There's so many little shops and places to go. Basically, you can spend all your time downtown and not need a car, or just use a bike, or just walk anywhere if you needed to. If this was a walking city review, it would easily have a 10 out of 10. But since it is a running city review, I'm going to stick with my 6 out of 10. Thanks for watching.